The Blackjack, small, unassuming, yet devastatingly effective, has been refined over centuries into a tool of precision. A simple combination of metal, leather, and momentum, it has been wielded by law enforcement, criminals, and military operatives alike. But why? What is it about this compact weapon that has made it so enduring, so adaptable, and so feared? Tonight, we're going to break it down piece by piece. The core that gives it mass, the handle that transfers force, and the casing that refines its function. We'll explore how its materials, weight, and mechanics turn raw physics into controlled impact. And most importantly, we'll ask, how did a weapon designed for stealth and subdual shape the world around it, from dark alleyways to battlefield operations? What makes a blackjack more than just a lump of metal? It's not just about having weight. It's about how that weight is controlled and delivered. The core provides mass, the handle transfers force, and the casing preserves both. Historically, blackjacks have featured a dense metal core, often lead or steel, chosen for its high mass relative to volume. Early examples were rudimentary, sometimes fashioned from scrap metal that was molded or hammered into shape and then wrapped in leather. Scientific principles of momentum and kinetic energy are key here. A higher mass concentrated into a small area allows a wielder to deliver forceful strikes without excessive effort. Over time, manufacturers learned to refine the metal shape to ensure consistency of weight, improving balance, and reducing the likelihood of the core shifting inside the casing. Originally, many blackjacks were nothing more than short, weighted leather sacks without a dedicated handle. But this design evolved with user feedback and practical necessity. The handle provides the crucial link for transferring force from the wielder's arm to the weighted core, allowing for controlled and deliberate swings. In more advanced versions, steel coils or springs were incorporated into the handle to increase flexibility and amplify the striking force, a principle akin to a spring-loaded system absorbing and then releasing energy. Leather-wrapped or rubberized grips became standard in the early 20th century to reduce slippage and hand fatigue, demonstrating a blend of ergonomic research and user experience. The outer covering initially served to keep the metal core contained and protect it from corrosion, but it quickly gained importance as a means of stealth and durability. Leather, widely available and easily stitched, was the traditional casing material, its natural texture helping to muffle the sound of impact and reduce the visual metallic shine. As rubber and synthetics became more accessible, they were adopted to further dampen noise and improve the weapon's grip. From a materials science perspective, these casings distribute the stresses of impact across the surface and prevent tearing or splitting, ensuring the blackjack maintains its structural integrity through repeated use. These three elements must work together, as the absence of any one makes the whole ineffective. The weight of the core dictates the need for a handle. The handle exists to control force. The casing refines how it's gripped and hidden. Remove any of these, and the weapon fails. Without a core, it has no striking power. Without a handle, it can't be wielded. Without a casing, it's noisy, conspicuous, and fragile. But when balanced correctly, these components create a compact, efficient, and precise weapon. A well-designed blackjack doesn't just exist, it works seamlessly, ensuring that every strike is controlled and effective. Why does a blackjack feel so precise in your hand? It's not just about using strong materials, it's about how those materials are shaped and how weight is distributed to maximize force. The material determines durability, the shape dictates control, and the weight distribution ensures that force is concentrated where it's needed most. Traditional blackjacks use high-density metals, commonly lead or iron, in the striking head, encased in strong fabrics like leather or canvas. The choice of material has been influenced by availability and practicality. Lead, being easy to mold, was popular in early designs, while modern variants sometimes incorporate alloys or steel shot for improved durability. Beyond the metal, the casing materials have ranged from plain leather to layered composites, reflecting advancements in textiles and the search for better shock absorption. Throughout history, local resources and trade conditions often dictated which metals and leathers were used, reflecting the broader economic and technological context. The blackjack's shape has been refined over time to optimize ergonomics and impact efficiency. Early versions were essentially cylindrical pouches with a knot of metal at one end. Later iterations introduced tapering, contoured handles, and molded grips. From a physics standpoint, the weapon's shape is designed to direct force onto a small, striking surface, maximizing pressure per square inch upon impact. This shape also aids concealment, compact enough to fit inside pockets or sleeves. Historical evidence suggests that law enforcement agencies provided input on shape to ensure better retention and less risk of the weapon slipping from an officer's hand during confrontations. A proper blackjack focuses the majority of its weight at the head rather than the handle, amplifying the momentum when swung. This is based on the principle that kinetic energy is more effectively transferred when mass is concentrated in the striking end. As the design evolved, craftsmen experimented with shifting small amounts of weight within the handle, finding that a slight counterbalance could improve accuracy and reduce arm fatigue. Modern collectors often seek blackjacks with a carefully tested balance, a testament to the centuries of iterative design aimed at making them both powerful and comfortable to wield. These three aspects must work together. The wrong material compromises both shape and balance, and a poor shape disrupts weight distribution. Stronger materials allow for more refined shapes, and refined shapes require careful weight placement to function correctly. If the material is weak, the weapon risks breaking. If the shape is awkward, even the best materials become unwieldy. If the weight is imbalanced, force is lost. When these factors align, the blackjack feels effortless, its center of mass optimized, its structure firm, and its weight directed precisely where it needs to be. This balance is what allows a simple swing to generate an outsized impact, turning raw physics into a devastatingly efficient design. Have you ever wondered how such a small weapon can hit with such force? The answer lies in how energy moves through the blackjack and into the target. The weapon's power doesn't just come from weight alone, it comes from how energy is transferred and where it lands. The blackjack's defining feature is its ability to generate a disproportionately high impact force compared to its size. By leveraging the physics of momentum, mass times velocity, even a modest swing can deliver a significant blow. Historically, this was particularly attractive to both law enforcement and less physically imposing users who could subdue a target without a great deal of strength. Improvements in metallurgy and forging techniques, like casting denser alloys, have further amplified impact force, making modern blackjacks more efficient than their early counterparts. Kinetic transfer is the process by which energy moves from the user's arm through the handle and into the blackjack's core. Initially, blackjacks were rigid, meaning the transfer was direct. Later designs introduced a flexible shaft or coiled spring near the handle to absorb some of the shock and then release it at the moment of impact, effectively increasing the weapon's striking power. This concept parallels that of a whip or a pivoting lever, brief elastic storage of energy followed by sudden release. Historically, the addition of springs or flexible segments emerged in the early 20th century, reflecting broader industrial advances in steel and coil technology. Targeting precise anatomical weak points, such as the temple, jaw, or back of the neck, was historically taught to law enforcement and military personnel to maximize the blackjack's incapacitating potential without necessarily causing lethal harm. Over centuries, anatomical and medical knowledge informed training manuals, emphasizing the significance of nerve clusters and the risk of fatal outcomes if not used judiciously. From a biomechanical perspective, striking these areas amplifies the shock's effect on the nervous system and can rapidly disorient a target, which is why official training manuals often stressed caution to avoid unintended injuries. Force, motion, and impact all work together, and if any of these fail, so does the strike. Generating impact force requires efficient kinetic transfer to ensure that energy isn't lost before reaching the target. If the impact force is weak, the blow lacks stopping power. If kinetic transfer is inefficient, energy dissipates before the strike lands. If the wrong area is hit, the effect is reduced or nullified. A blackjack is designed to maximize every bit of energy you put into it. The weight is placed at the striking end to build momentum, and the handle's length and material determine how much of that force is maintained through the swing. Finally, anatomical targeting turns physics into strategy. Striking nerve clusters or soft tissue maximizes the effect, even with minimal motion. That's why this weapon has been favored for close-quarters engagements. It turns mechanical efficiency into tactical advantage. If the blackjack has existed for centuries, why hasn't it stayed the same? Every improvement, whether in materials, shape, or weight distribution, has been a response to flaws and limitations. As industrial processes advanced, so did the materials used in blackjacks. Early versions might have used crude lumps of lead sewn into cloth pouches, but the late 19th and early 20th centuries saw the rise of standardized metal forging and higher quality leather tanning. Adoption of synthetic rubbers and nylon in the mid-20th century provided longer-lasting and more durable casings, which were less prone to splitting under stress. These refinements not only extended the weapon's lifespan, but also allowed more rigorous quality control as manufacturing shifted from cottage industry methods to factory processes. Shaping the blackjack for ergonomic use emerged from practical field experience. Law enforcement and military units provided feedback on the difficulty of retention during scuffles, prompting the development of contoured grips. In some models, the handle's angle relative to the weighted head was modified to better align with the user's wrist, reducing strain during repeated strikes. Archival patents from the early 20th century reveal inventive approaches, such as flattened striking edges or ridged contours, all aimed at increasing the chances of a disabling blow while minimizing the risk of the user losing control. Balancing the blackjack's mass between the head and the handle became a focal point as users realized that an overly heavy head, while powerful, could be cumbersome for repeated or quick strikes. By adding a slight counterweight or adjusting the length of the handle, designers aimed to create a natural pivot point, allowing fluid swings without sacrificing striking power. Scientific advances in materials testing helped manufacturers measure the effectiveness of certain weight distributions, driving incremental improvements. The goal has always been to maximize force at the moment of impact, while minimizing the physical toll on the wielder. These three factors must evolve together. Outdated materials weaken improvements in shape, and an imbalanced weight distribution undermines even the best materials. As metallurgy advanced, tougher metals allowed for more specialized shaping techniques, which in turn enabled finer weight distribution for better control. Without material improvements, shaping techniques remained limited. Without better shaping, material strength went underutilized. Without weight refinement, even the best materials and forms felt awkward in use. The evolution of the blackjack is a testament to iterative problem-solving. Law enforcement sought better grips, criminals desired more compact designs, and the military refined balance for efficiency. The blackjack we recognize today exists because each step of its adaptation refined its ability to strike quickly, effectively, and reliably. What gives the blackjack an edge over other weapons? The answer lies in how well it balances concealment, speed, and tactical use. From the 19th century dockyards to Prohibition-era back alleys, one of the blackjack's primary appeals was its ability to be hidden in a pocket or sleeve. The small size and flexible nature made it less conspicuous than a baton or club, providing a tactical edge in situations where open carry was either impractical or illegal. Historical records show that undercover law enforcement officers and private detectives often chose blackjacks for their discreet profiles, and criminals valued the same feature to surprise adversaries. Modern concealed carry regulations sometimes list blackjacks among prohibited weapons, reflecting their long-standing reputation for covert deployment. Speed is not only about how quickly the blackjack can be drawn, but also how rapidly it can be employed. The short reach necessitates fast, fluid motions to strike effectively before an opponent can react or escape. Scientific principles of angular velocity come into play, as a shorter lever, the blackjack's handle, allows for a quick acceleration of the weighted end. Historically, trainers emphasized a tight arc and snap of the wrist, capitalizing on the weapon's compact design. This advantage was especially valued in cramped conditions like narrow hallways or alleyways, where a larger baton or firearm might be unwieldy. The blackjack's primary tactic revolves around surprise and subdual. It is meant to deliver a disabling blow without extended engagement. Law enforcement used it for incapacitating suspects with minimal public disturbance. Criminals found it useful for intimidation or silent knockdowns. Military operatives have historically employed it in sentry removal or sabotage missions, relying on its quiet nature to avoid alerting nearby forces. Training manuals from the mid-20th century often included specific scenarios where blackjacks were most effective, such as behind-the-back approaches or quick upward swings targeting the base of the skull, underscoring the strategic dimension of its use. Concealment, speed, and tactical use must work together for the weapon to be practical. A blackjack that is easily concealed but slow to deploy is useless, just as a quick weapon that is difficult to hide loses its stealth advantage. A well-concealed weapon allows for quick deployment, and quick deployment ensures it can be used effectively in a tactical scenario. If it isn't discreet, it loses its edge in surprise attacks. If it isn't fast, it becomes cumbersome in high-stress situations. If it isn't suited for the environment in which it's used, it loses its entire purpose. This balance is why the blackjack became a weapon of choice for close-quarters encounters. It is small, fast, and designed for precision. The ability to seamlessly move from concealment to impact is what makes it unique. It's a weapon that thrives on the element of control, both over the opponent and the situation itself. Why did such different groups, law enforcement, criminals, and the military, all find value in the blackjack? The answer is that its design perfectly suited their varied needs, creating a dynamic where each group influenced its evolution. Law enforcement required a non-lethal compliance tool, criminals valued its stealth and ease of use, and the military found it ideal for silent incapacitation. Blackjacks became popular with police in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, especially in urban settings where a baton might be too large to carry discreetly. Officers found the blackjack effective for subduing suspects with relatively minimal force, at least in theory, compared to firearms. However, concerns over misuse and excessive force led to debates within police departments and public outcry in certain regions. Throughout the mid-20th century, some departments phased them out in favor of batons or tasers, citing both ethical and liability issues, but they remained symbolic of a certain era of law enforcement's approach to crowd control and suspect apprehension. Simultaneously, criminals recognized the blackjack's utility for intimidation and quick knockdowns. From organized crime enforcers to street gangs, the ability to produce a sudden incapacitating strike without drawing gunfire made blackjacks particularly appealing. Historical accounts from Prohibition-era newspapers often mention blackjacks in the arsenals of mobsters and rum runners, who favored them for their silence and ease of concealment. The weapon's association with underhanded or covert violence persists in popular culture, cementing its status as a tool of stealth and surprise rather than open combat. In military contexts, blackjacks found a niche in close-quarters combat and sentry removal, where stealth was paramount. World War II-era manuals sometimes referred to them as sapgloves or koshes, underscoring their use in commando operations. They allowed soldiers to disable guards without alerting the entire enemy encampment, taking advantage of the blackjack's minimal sound profile. Modern special forces might use updated variants or eschew them for more advanced non-lethal options. But historically, blackjacks played a small yet significant role in operations requiring silent takedowns and minimal collateral damage. These three roles shaped the weapon's refinement, each demanding features that reinforced its effectiveness. Law enforcement's adoption led to more standardized designs, which criminals co-opted for their purposes, which in turn drove military adaptations for specialized operations. Without police use, its standardization might never have happened. Without criminal use, the emphasis on stealth and concealability might have been overlooked. Without military application, it may not have been refined for special operations. This relationship between different groups showcases how tools evolve based on the needs of those who wield them. The blackjack didn't just survive history, it adapted to it, shaped by the hands that used it. The blackjack's enduring presence across centuries is not a coincidence, it's a testament to the power of refined simplicity. Every element from its materials to its shape and mechanics has been honed by necessity, shaped by the demands of those who wielded it. It is a perfect example of a tool that exists at the intersection of physics, ergonomics, and tactical efficiency. At its core, the blackjack succeeds because it optimizes force while minimizing effort. Its evolution, from crude leather sacks filled with metal to precision-balanced instruments, demonstrates how iterative refinement can turn a simple idea into a specialized, highly effective tool. This same principle applies to technology, engineering, and even strategic thinking. The best designs are not those that merely exist, but those that continuously adapt, responding to their environment and the needs of their users. The blackjack's journey also reveals something deeper about human innovation. How necessity drives design and how different groups can shape the development of a tool in sometimes opposing, yet interdependent ways. Law enforcement, criminals, and military forces all contributed to its evolution, demonstrating how a single object can take on vastly different roles depending on intent and context. Ultimately, the blackjack is more than just a weapon. It is a physical manifestation of balance between force and control, concealment and effectiveness, history and adaptation. And like any great tool, its true power lies not just in its construction, but in the hands and minds of those who understand how to wield it.